7:37 on the Morning Majority on a Friday morning in Washington, D.C. Juan Williams joins us now, Fox News political analyst.
Hey, Juanie.
And a guy I saw on TV last night with Mary Catherine Ham, as a matter of fact. Morning, Juan.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Yes,
great.
Juan, long time no see.
Hey, Mary Catherine. How are you? Good morning.
I wanted to ask you, actually, not to be too self-referential, but about our segment last night, because we talked about Sarah Palin, and I got a bunch of feedback from Palinistas, the big super Palin fans, even before the segment had started, because I had announced I was going to talk about it, on Twitter saying, "Are you just going to hate on Sarah Palin like the rest of Fox News?"
Ooh.
And I was like, well, that's weird. I haven't even been on TV to talk about it yet. And it was just overwhelming. I got a ton of tweets about this, and I was wondering if you got any of the similar stuff. There's a whole story out there about how Fox is turning on Sarah Palin.
You know, this is really interesting to me. I see some of this in terms of the phone calls and the emails I get, and this has been going on for a week. And I think much of it started when there was on Brett Baer's show, Special Report, on Monday. There was one of those, quick polls of people who are listening, unscientific and all the rest. And the question was, would you prefer Michelle Bachmann or Sarah Palin as the Republican nominee? And guess what? Michelle Bachmann won. Well, the poll stayed up, and immediately all Sarah Palin's fans said, hey, we're in this. And they absolutely
crushed
swamped
it.
Fox and swamped the poll and everything. And since then, there's been this reaction from Palin fans that says somehow everybody's out to get and criticize Sarah Palin as selfish and self-motivated and playing games with the media. And why is Fox not supporting Sarah Palin?
But I think her popularity has peaked, not only with the general public, but with Republicans in particular. I think she's more on the downtrend than she is on the upswing.
Well, there's no doubt. Let's be just scientific for a second. That's what the actual polls and focus groups show, that Palin's popularity really hit a high point late last year, right after the midterms, and has been on the descent ever since, especially after the unfortunate events in Phoenix and her reaction there. And that might be part of the conversation that a lot of people were critical, including Republicans, of how she's been handling herself since then.
Juan, Brian Wilson here. How are you,
Hi,
bud?
Brian.
Good to see you. Good to hear you, at least. Hey, your old friend Vivian Schiller is back in the news. Now, for those who may not remember who Vivian Schiller is, she was fired from NPR. She was in charge of NPR after there were some sort of disparaging remarks made by NPR executives about Republicans. And she was also, incidentally, the person who fired you from NPR. How do you feel about her new job over at NBC?
Well, Brian, let me add to that introduction for the audience, which is to say that it got personal between Vivian Schiller and me, and I didn't do it. She was the one who, in a speech down in Atlanta right after I was fired, suggested that any comments that I make be between me and my psychiatrist, and that I consult with my publicist before saying anything more. So I was treated like I was an infantile person who couldn't even babble straight, and when I was babbling in an insane asylum to a shrink or something. And I just thought it was insulting in general, but I didn't know why she went there, but that's what she did. I feel like, we've got to move on. I'm glad that she's able to, support herself and her family, but let me just say I'm really surprised that a media company, NBC, would be involved with somebody who, from my experience as a journalist, treated journalism and journalists and the whole idea of free debate and free expression, no matter if she thought that I was too conservative for her taste. She treated me, I think, with disrespect, and the craft of journalism, the idea of opinion journalism, something all three of you are familiar with. I don't think I went out of bounds in what I said, and just to recount, I said that I thought, with Mary Catherine sitting right there so she can testify, all I said was that when I'm getting on a plane, I get nervous if I see people in Muslim garb. I didn't say discriminate against people. I didn't say we should have policies that are discriminatory. I went on to elaborate and say we have to intentionally avoid such a thing.
Right.
Nonetheless, she fired my butt.
All right. What about Anthony Weiner? Moving on to
Hey, what do you think about that drama, that saga?
What's going on there? How much trouble is he in?
Well, I don't think he's in any legal trouble, but he's in an embarrassing situation. It's got to hurt him in the district. And what catches my eye from the political side is, that's a district that's part Manhattan, Queens. It's in New York City. And initially you might think, oh, that's a very Democratic district. To the contrary, that's a district that's more Republican than any other district in New York City, in that whole region. And I think that Anthony Weiner suddenly made himself vulnerable. Now, I know a lot of people aren't paying attention to the politics here, but I think the politics are interesting beyond all the salacious stuff about the picture. But the other part that interests me, and I think the three of you would pick up on this, is what a misguided media campaign he's had this week. He thought that he could get on the offensive, get on every show, do interviews with anchors, and somehow explain this away. Instead, he made it 10 times worse.
And joking about it, too. You know, his jokes about it were just unbelievable.
I was a little stiff yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Jeez.
But
I'm interested. Do you really think that he could lose his seat over this? Is that big of a deal?
I think, right, exactly. When all the political people are looking in there, for the first time they're saying, you know what, look at this district. This is an area that actually went slightly toward McCain in the last presidential race. You'd never guess this.
No, you are dropping some knowledge on me right now, Juan. I did not know that.
Yeah, and you go back and look at the numbers, and you have to understand, this is a mostly white, I guess they've got a large portion of Jews in this area, in this district, and they have been leaning right for some time, but Anthony Weiner is very popular. He's been winning easily. Might not be the case going forward, especially now that he's revealed himself as a Lotharian.
What do you read into this comment, Juan, that he said yesterday that he couldn't say with any certitude whether or not that picture was of him?
Well, that was the worst of the worst, because first of all, I'm going to just take a flyer here, Brian and Brian, but I'm going to guess you guys are with me. I don't have any pictures of my
That's
crotch
right. I raise my hand. I have never taken a picture of that nature. That's right.
And if I had done so, I would remember.
Yeah, if you guys came up to me and said, is this a picture of your crotch? I'd say, gentlemen, take a walk.
Right.
You're out of here.
Right. All right, Juan. Always good to talk to you. Thanks for coming to the show. We appreciate it.
Always good to be with you.
Right.
Take care. Have a good day.
Juan
Bye,
Williams,
Juan.
Fox News political analyst here on The Morning Majority.